Hey guys, Steve here, Ponics. Today we're going to talk about
growing with fishes. Growing with fishes.
Hey, it looks like Tanner Stewart's joined us. Appreciate it. Bain Howard's joined us. Waiting on Dylan here. Let me make sure he's got his link. I think we still have a few minutes. Marty, do you want to run a giveaway here for Mammoth P or yeah, do Mammoth P giveaway.
All right, sure. Anybody who wants Mammoth P, shout out in the chat. Yeah, it was great to talk to Murray for a little bit. You guys always a lot of fun to talk to. Nobody wants Mammoth P, huh? Oh, you're probably not cut up to live yet.
You got to remember there's a delay.
Yeah, I forget. How's Stewart Farms over there?
Pretty good, man. We're
yeah, why don't you introduce yourself here while we're getting everything sorted here.
Right on. I'm Tanner Stewart, founder of Stewart Farms, a soon to be vertical, but currently single layer, aquaponically driven farm. We're on the far east coast here. I can give you a visual aid here. This is New Brunswick on the east coast of Maine, or sorry, just north of Maine on the far east coast. This is our big, huge building, which we are not at all barely in. We've developed 10,000 square feet of the facility so far. But here, I got a map ready. See? So here's where we are. This is Maine. We're 6 hours north of Boston on the I-95. And I can zoom right in. I don't know if you guys see a leg on your end. Oh, here. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. There we go. So this is our 4-phase project here, and this gives the representation of how much of that building that we're actually in. So it's actually this little area right here that I'm running my mouse on. We're in our first phase is about 10,000 square feet of our entire facility. So we're moving we got our tilapia in the system right now. We're using tilapia, Black Nile tilapia specifically. And yeah, that was an adventure getting the fish in the farm. But no, things are going good. You know, we just took down our first 2 crops, Steve and Marty, since we got licensed. That's just in the last 2 weeks, actually, because we got licensed April 13th. So we brought down Mandelbrot's Royal and Girl Scout cookies, and they're looking good, smelling good. We got a big outdoor crop we're bringing down here right now, but it's getting cold here on the East Coast, and we're getting some of these phenos might not make it.
Alrighty. Bain, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. Hey guys, Bain Howard here.
A little bit quiet. I'm not sure.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hey guys, Bain Howard of Vertica Farms, located out here in the small town of Quorum, Oklahoma. We're just a little ways south of Muskogee, if anybody knows where that one is. We operate about 20,000 square feet of facility between 2 separate buildings. We have both of those are hybrid greenhouses, so poly sides and tops. We're running deep water culture aquaponics in one of them, and then the second one, we're working on bringing aquaponics online up there. Currently, it's being fed with irrigated with our aquaponic water off that DWC, but we're working on, that's the big project right now, is shifting that more and more towards aquaponic heavy.
All right. Hopefully that shifts the view so everybody can see it. I'm going to do the whole Brady Bunch view here. We also have Me Wasson Farms, who's been a really awesome contributor to our Facebook group. and has some really amazing cannabis on a regular basis that he's showing off over there. So thanks for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I'm Dylan with McAmmond Farms, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Is that a new
It's
name?
been an awesome. I'm Dylan.
Well, I know who you are. I said, is that a new name?
Sorry.
Your farm name, or
McAmmond Farms.
Did you just come up with that, or has it been that for a while and I just don't pay attention?
It's been that for a while, but it's more so just like the YouTube channel name.
Gotcha.
But then I'll be doing some consulting work for other micros and possibly licensed producers in the future. And then once I do get into the legal framework with Health Canada for producing for stores, I'll be able to do direct farm to retail sales in Saskatchewan. Just the way the regulations are set up here, we're allowed to do that already.
Very cool.
Yeah, it should be good.
And deep cut, his picture is the Aquaponic Cannabis Growers group picture. So when you guys come and check it out, like I know you're going to come check out the Aquaponic Cannabis Growers group, you will see his lovely picture framed up so well there of his fish and his plants and everything all lined up there. So we appreciate you letting us use your picture there.
No problem, man.
Heck yeah.
It was a fun contest.
Yeah, we did a contest for people to submit their grow, and the angle on his and everything is just sweet. So it's a good pick. And then we also
Worked
have
out good. It was near the end of flowering too. That's why going.
Oh, awesome. We also have Liane Keyes is going to be joining us again as well. So to answer questions. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join the panel here. Look forward to answer some of these questions.
And if you're just catching this this talk and you haven't seen the other one yet, definitely go check out his other talk a little bit earlier today, where he gave us a really awesome tour of his facility, both future and present. So really cool to see all the things that he's been doing. I thought we could start off with a couple of questions from chat, and then if you guys had any questions that you guys want to throw on the floor, we just felt like it'd be cool to get a bunch of commercial producers together and kind of answer some questions from the crowd. We actually did a similar event with most of the same panel on the Future Cannabis Project a couple of months ago, and it was a lot of fun, and a lot of people enjoyed it. So we figured we'd close the conference with something equally as cool. So we thought it went over really well, so we get to do it again. So we'll start off here is what's the most common problems you're running into when running commercial facilities? Whoever wants to go first can grab that one.
Well, I can just talk about like while we're turning on our facility right now. So like I said, we got our license April 13th. So we're on month, 5 roughly of getting our rooms turned on and rolling. And, we're also deep into pheno hunting. We've got a significant genetic library, and we've got 4 flower rooms that we're turning on. And we're kind of doing a combination of running our key base strains, 2 of which are Royal Kush and Girl Scout Cookie. But also we've got another couple rooms that we're pheno hunting in. And, like starting up any farm or any company, it's really, trying to plan your process flow ahead and and holding your mum and veg stock and deciding quantities of mother plants that you're trying to keep for certain strains, and planning. We're going to run these 2 strains, in room number 3 in 4 weeks, but then actually we're going through it right now, right? We let one of our strains in half of our room, we let it go for 9.5 weeks, right? So that threw off our whole schedule, held some veg material back in our room. we had another instance where we popped 200 seeds across 6 different strains, and we're working with the university here right now, and we decided to let them do our sex testing, and we're trying to get set up because like we're quite research driven, and they took 3 weeks longer than we had thought they would take to get the sex test done, and that really messed us up. So now we've got because we need to kill half of them, right? we should have cloned them like a week and a half ago, and we had to hold them for a week and a half longer, and plus half of them are males, and we know that, right? So we didn't want to clone a week and a half ago. Oh, sorry, and clone double the amount of plants just because we would have been cloning half of those as males. So I mean, really scheduling, building a schedule and thinking you're going to stay on that, and just dealing with the reality of all these different miscellaneous issues that pop up. So that's kind of the fun that we're
timing.
What's that?
Timing is always, it's always a bitch. I mean, it always just like you were saying, all it takes is that one little thing, like you've got a couple of plants that got to hang out in that room a little bit longer, or maybe not a couple, but a significant couple of strains, or, you have something that hangs out in a room longer than it's supposed to, and then it just throws everything off moving forward. Your bedroom gets too crowded and you don't have a place to put them, and, they're just, I would say that's one of the more challenging things. I guess I don't look at it, I always kind of look at it in order. Like they're asking, what are the common ones you run into? Well, the first one you run into is getting licensing. And then the second one you run into is getting set up. And then the second, it's like, for me, it's more like an order of things as opposed to like a menu of them. So I totally relate with what you're saying about the timing aspect of it, especially when you're trying to get into production, not just stay in production. Trying to get to production, I feel like, is even more challenging than staying on track, which is challenging enough as it is.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Really getting a solid plan together. You can do all you can to get your timeline mapped out just right. These ones are going to follow these ones through this room. We're going to get our deep clean in and then on to the next thing. But consolidating that with real life, and then being able to adjust on the fly when those inevitable things pop up, whether it's, a little issue with pests or a nutrient thing that's got you hung up for a few days, and just that little lag it puts and the fallout that has to your whole schedule. Being able to adapt and with that on the fly is really key.
Being the crew that's doing deep water culture and using coho salmon water to grow cannabis, that has been quite an adventure and a big challenge for us. We currently, to our knowledge, we're the only group that has done that in that way. And we've called around for all kinds of advice in certain aspects, mainly around nutrients, what you're going to be lacking, how to filter your system. And we've really had to learn firsthand through some trial and error, and obviously doing it as smartly as we possibly can, and always being on your toes, because one day somebody will leave a valve on and you start losing water, or a pump gets clogged at, say, it's 7 o'clock at nighttime, and now you gotta spend the next 5 hours fixing that pump, making sure that all your salmon stock is safe and your cannabis production is safe.
I would say, in my experience, the single hardest part of it is licensing and dealing with all the BS involved with licensing. After licensing, in terms of day-to-day challenges, I would say just making sure that employee biosecurity, and employees not 100% of the time making sure everything is the way it should be, and not causing biosecurity, and not even intentionally. I'm talking about accidents, like it's the end of the day and they realized, oh shit, I left a hose on, and they run in real quick and break protocol from their car just to go turn that hose off, and didn't go put their gear on and didn't go through the whole nine, and stuff like that. Or people being a little too willing to take in the cut of the month and the popular strain right now from a source that maybe they know they shouldn't have gotten it from, or maybe they got a strain and they normally don't even take in strains, but they broke it just because they're trying to carry this popular one. Or the other one I see a lot of problems with is people running their clone spaces way too hot. If you know, those clones need to be no higher than 75 Fahrenheit. If you're running them much warmer than that, you're going to have problems. It's going to screw up your rooting. You know, that's kind of on the upper end, but I think that's probably the stuff I see when I walk in and I see just super commonly. That and then the other one I see is mosaic virus. I think I see that all the time, where you have some kind of you know, weird issue going on, or weird you know, very obvious insect and you know, one insect infection, or maybe russets or mosaic somewhere in the grow. Is super common. Last year was Septoria, but now I guess everyone's traded enough cuts in Oklahoma to infect at least one strain in their mom room with mosaic now. So I've taken so many pictures this year of mosaic. It's crazy. But at least we have people like Medicinal Genomics that are making assays where we can actually learn what we're doing on that stuff. And was it what's the other one for viral testing? I'll think of it. Anyways, agdia.com. That's the other one for viral testing. They have test strips if you're trying to ID that stuff. So the next question in chat here. All right. How are we operating our systems? The last system was a little bit different. I myself do mostly dual root zone aquaponics. My preference is to do media beds and to do, you know, 2 to 4, maybe even 8 on a 100-foot run, if possible, and then doing dual root zone pots and that. And again, to have that level of nutrient control, I can, you know, really accelerate the growth of individual strains and side by side. And especially like Marty was saying, when you're trying to, you know, pheno hunt and figure out the right nutrient regimens, once you've found a good pheno, you can run, you know, a whole bunch of side by sides really rapidly in a single run and really dial them in a short period of time. So those are some of the advantages, again, that, and not only that, I find that when just through testing, that it gives you a pretty big increase in terpenes. At least me personally. Now, there other people have found other ways to do mineralization and stuff and had really great results as well. It doesn't mean that you can't achieve it, but for me, it's the way that I've found is the easiest to control, and then the easiest way for me to get people that are used to soil or cocoa or something else to convert to and succeed with, because it's something that's kind of familiar to what they're used to, and it's easier for them to transition to on a commercial scale, and they feel more comfortable with, at least in my personal experience. I don't know who wants to jump in next.
So I'm pretty similar, dual root zone, aquaponics, and media beds. I guess right now what I'm working on is kind of what Steve was just talking about. I'm first trying to dial in nutrients, I guess, more in terms of how much potassium, how much phosphorus, you know, do I really need in those different systems inside an aquaponics system? Because I think we have enough evidence to show that, you know, compared to other methods of growing, we can use fewer amounts of nutrients. So I'm trying to figure out what ratios work the best. And I can only grow 12 plants at a time, so dual root zone really allows me to be able to dial each one in per system. Hey Steve, can you mute? I'm getting a little bit of an echo.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, it's all good. So yeah, because I can dial in the soil mix and keep it isolated for each dual root zone pot, inside one I can have 12 different variations, or more like a control in variations of a single strain or multiple strains if I want to do more than one. So right now I'm trying to keep my cuts pretty consistent, where I only have a couple of them that I'm using to dial in my nutrient profiles for my new system. And then once I have that, so from the first run, I already have target zones for the next one, and I'll vary those over the other 12 plants and get that even smaller. And then I'll be able to do that inside of a single run. So that's the advantage of being able to run them all in a single system, but still be able to have different nutrients for each plant. Is I don't have to run 12 tests in order to accommodate the same thing. So inside of that same 2 to 3 month period, I can test 12 variations instead of 1 if I was doing a single system with all my plants. So that's kind of been what my focus is. And then once I know what base profiles I want to start with for nutrients, then I'll start doing pheno hunts with the same nutrient profiles that I already had dialed in. So that way I can create my baselines a layer at a time. So that's kind of what I'm currently working on. But I'm growing indoors primarily. I will have an outdoor system next year with the same, U siphons, media beds, same type of stuff in a greenhouse. But for right now, mostly indoors. I've got about just under 4,000 watts of ceramic metal halide that I'm growing in the flower room right now. And it's about 20 by 20. So that's what I have running.
So for our system, we have coho salmon, and then we have a decoupled deep water culture system for our flowering. And then our propagation, we actually take water from the coho salmon, and we just put those in an aerator, and that is how we spread our root. So all our cultivation is done indoors. We have our salmon room, and then that water goes down to a treatment room where we're treating the water for the salmon to make sure it stays in the water quality that we need it to. And then another process that's treating the water for the flowering room. Now we are looking to have as minimum inputs as possible. So we're doing a lot of water buffering to, for example, to get your potassium, your calcium, your magnesium actually in the salmon system to maintain the pH. And then we're also, so the pH for the salmon's at a 7, and the pH for the plants, we keep between a 5.7 to a 6.2, depending on the stage of growth. So for that, then we add phosphorus in to bring it down. So we're doing a lot of development on how to optimize the living water. And there's definitely levels to it. We've had the current system we have operating for a couple years now, and still refinement to be done. We're also currently expanding, and we're going to have 6 new flower rooms, and every flower room will have its own water control. So each room will be able to tweak nutrients a little bit. Say we want to add a little extra magnesium, and we'll be able to do that in its own individual sump, and then see what the results are. And as well, also environment wise, we'll be able to bring the degrees up by 1 or 2, or bring it down at certain times throughout the flower cycle. So we're going to get a lot of information quickly compared to what we have been in just the one room we've been operating for the last couple of years. So we'll be able to learn 6 times faster.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Who wants to go next? Bain, for whatever reason, your sound is, I'm not sure what it is that.
Better?
No, we'll let somebody else go.
Yeah.
What's
All
that? Worked for a second there.
I'll just always getting her done there.
Well, we could have Tanner go next. While he's getting sorted.
Right on. Well, we're currently running a decoupled system. So we just have a very small fish farm to start. So we've only got a 1 metric ton per year system at this time. So we've got about 500 black Nile tilapia in each one of these tanks. Got a little belt feeder, up here, and of course our drum filter. That's our bead filter there in the back. Phase 2, we're going to build out a 17 metric ton system, so that'll give us ample nutrient at this time. But right now we're just top feeding. So we're an indoor grow as well. So everything we're doing right now is very, very research based. So not unlike Lane and how he's tweaking his I'm dropping my mic here, tweaking in his deep water culture system in 6 different rooms. But they're dedicated to deep water culture. We're actually following the footsteps of you, Steve, a bit, but we're wide open, right? So we're saying we're starting with living soil, top fed with aquaponic water. Then we're going to progress to different mediums. We actually have a pure carbon char medium that we're going to be running here probably in the new year. We're going to be running that up against a cocoa coir. Everything, of course, will involve being fed with the aquaponics water, and we'll be doing some dual root zone stuff as well, and then bottom feed versus top feed. While doing our best not to go down useless routes, right? I mean, it's really about tweaking our strain to the best of its ability. What you're looking at here actually was our very first living soil test. So on the left here, we've got a soil called Crystal Cure, and this is a really nice formulation. It's got some carbon char in it. It's inoculated with a mushroom tea, which I really liked. It's a lot more of a peat base as well. So we didn't top these plants a whole lot. This was our very first run, so we kind of went with a single cola plant. This is the Royal Kush, is what you're looking at here. But you can see a drastic difference between just really the thickness and the undergrowth and the canopy here on the Crystal Cure, and of course, it's not nearly as nutrient deficient. And then you can see here, this one here had some root issues actually in the back. But you can see here the undergrowth is really not anywhere near the Crystal Cure soil. So on our first flower run, we basically eliminated kryptonite out of our repertoire. So we're going to move forward with Crystal Cure as our baseline living soil. And we ran Girl Scout in the same soil, and the Girl Scout didn't react quite as negatively in the kryptonite as the Royal Kush did, but it did have lesser overall yield. But yeah, so really for us, everything we're doing is research driven. So it's about really answering those questions of what's going on in the microbiome in the soil, what's going on in the microbiome of the fish water, and then combining them, running them separately. This is going to take, this is really the whole basis of our entire company is understanding what the microbiome is doing and how it's how the plant is reacting to it. So decoupled system right now, and well, it'll definitely remain decoupled. And as far as I guess we don't really have a set way. Like I said, we're just going to be plowing through and figuring out where we'll land and what the best way is for us here over this next year and a half, 2 years.
Awesome. And what about looks like we got Bain and Dylan left here.
Yeah, I can go. My setup is similar to Marty and Steve's. It's a flood and drain system with dual root zones, with a super soil mix, lots of red regulars in the media beds. Eventually, I want to do an outdoor system with light deprivation of greenhouses, passive solar, heat, earth sheltered aquaponics. But that's probably like a 3 to 5 year plan. Yeah, otherwise this is a pretty simple setup here.
Hey, how's that audio coming through now?
Much better.
Awesome. So here at Vertica, I think we're doing something very similar to Stewart Farms. We've got the table set up in much the same way with the living soil that we're top feeding with our aquaponic water. And now that aquaponic water, we're pulling off of a continuously recirculating loop that we've got DWC that we're running some other plants in, that we're working on converting that over to more of a dual root zone type of setup, much like Steve, you and Marty were talking about earlier, on top of those floating rafts with the 3 to 5 gallon pot on there, and letting those roots get down in between or excuse me, below that. But for right now, that's really proven effective for us. We just installed a big geothermal heat exchanger system to try to get our temperature in that deep water culture down, because that was giving us problems for a while there, especially during the heat of the summer. But that we're working on moving that over to more of a dual root zone setup, and then, like I said, up the hills all living soil containers.
There's the next question is a good one. What do we look for people that we want to hire?
Okay, I'll answer. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I can speak to that right now. We're really going through that process at the farm, like as we speak. We've got 2 really great guys. I've got to give a shout out to them right now. Zach and Tim are really helping us hold it down out there. But when you're looking for new people, I'd gotta say dependability is a huge thing. Someone you can count on day to day.
Can you get a little closer to your mic because it cuts out a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah.
There you go. I think that's the problem. There you go.
Dependability is what I was speaking to. Somebody who can show after day, and really someone you can count on to follow through with all the SOPs you've set forth. A lot of time and effort goes into putting those together, and so being able to turn that over to somebody and know that they'll be able to knock those things out, and you can work through that weekly list together and get everything that has to happen around the farm, from day to day, week to week, month to month, taken care of. That's huge. So yeah.
So we just went through the hiring process as well. We actually had 100 applicants when we were going to be hiring 3 people for the expansion that we're doing. And so the very first thing we look for is that they were able to follow instructions on the application. We had some certain questions and things that we wanted answered there. And a handful didn't end up filling that stuff out. So we didn't move any of those applicants forward. After that, there were some certain skill sets we're looking at. In our case, we want to understand the micro life a little more. So we had brought on somebody who would be able to handle that, and then some experience around certain things like cultivation, etc. played a big role. But the big next step after we did phone interviews with the top candidates was to then check their references, and had all the same questions for the references, but having strong references was pretty much the final thing to make our decision for who we'd end up bringing on the team. And exactly as mentioned, that they're going to be reliable and have a farming mindset for us, because you really it's not a 9-to-5 job all the time. You got to be prepared if something doesn't go right, that you're going to be able to stay longer, or if you're scheduled on certain days that you may have to come in at 12 at night to fix some challenges that may be happening in the facility.
Yeah, I've got two key things that I'm looking for now, and the first one is you have to love the plant. You have to love cannabis, and you have to love the plant. And I didn't think, like, when we first got going, I didn't look that this has just been like a, drop the hammer down decision here in the last couple of weeks, really, or even the last month. I didn't think it was as crucial, right? I knew we needed, I know it was a preference. It was a preference at the beginning, But, you know, we are running a startup company in what is a startup industry, you know, in the legal space anyways. And, you know, working in a startup company in a well-established industry is hard enough. So, you know, having that built-in passion in a startup company in a brand new startup industry. I mean, the closest thing to this is the .com, right, bubble that burst, and you know, it was a brand new emerging industry in with, you know, companies rising and falling left, right, and center. You know, it's a lot of pressure, and you know, you're farming. You know, that's the big difference. You can't really compare it to the .com, you know, and actually, you know, because then you're farming, right? It's not like you're making a software. So the second thing, so passion, you got to love the plant. You know, and I'm pretty sure that's going to spill over into the administration side of this company as well, because, you know, if you're sitting there looking at a spreadsheet and you never go into the farm, at least you know what you're spreadsheeting about. And the second one is the ability to adjust to rapid change, and that kind of goes back to the farming side of it, right? You know, like you have to be willing to come into work every day and be like, oh, we're not doing what we said we were going to do yesterday, and then you got to come in the next day and be like, oh, we're also not doing the thing we said we were going to do today, right? And you know, and to Lane's point, you know, and oh, we're going to be here for 18 hours today, so you know, and that all kind of loops back. So like, you know, if you're passionate, chances are you're not going to mind those extreme changes every day. But you know, you might be passionate, but then you really just can't take those shifting tides. I mean, a lot of people need structure. Like they need structure, and a lot of people just aren't built for this kind of a gig, right? So I'm just trying to, you know, going forward, when we're hiring people, we're interviewing people, and they make it through all the kind of to the last conversation, just trying to be as negative as possible and be like, you know, nothing you think we're going to do is going to happen. Many things are not going to work out, and this is going to be really hard, right? You know, and you know, kind of lay it out.
Yeah, I think that as far like I have the unique perspective of hiring people for a different industry also as an IT professional. I've been IT manager multiple times and ran, you know, tech support crews. I've ran installation crews and hired multiple people. And first of all, it's almost always a crapshoot, but there are, I feel like, important things in terms of aquaponics that are interesting, which is, the first one I have to say is if you have any type of farming experience at all, you should just come to the top of the list, at least to be considered. And there's a reason for that, which is everybody can sit at their office job and fantasize about growing weed and how cool it is and how fun it must be, and not realize exactly how much work it is until they do it for a couple of days and then never fucking show up again. So that's just, so if you've done it before and you know what you're in for, and you're still willing to do it, then by all means, that, you know, you should definitely at least talk to them. Then the second thing that I'll say about hiring people that I feel like is the most important thing across the board is what questions they ask. What are they interested in when you are talking to them? Are their interests related to plants, expanding their own knowledge? Do they want, you know, do they bring their own stuff to the conversation? Do they talk about strains that they've already grown? Do they talk about farming that they've already done? Do they ask questions related to what the job is going to be, or do they ask questions related to what the pay is going to be, what the hours are going to be, things that are more related, let's just say slightly more self-centered as opposed to knowledge seeking, because I do feel like people thrive in what they love. And if they're there to get an hourly wage, or they're there to just have a job, it's going to be difficult for them to succeed. So if you have somebody that is showing up to a job interview and asking questions just because they genuinely want to know stuff about growing a plant or cutting clones or doing a farm of any sort, try to consider them a little bit more than maybe somebody that has more experience, but is only concerned with how the job is going to benefit them financially. So I would say knowledge-centric questions in the interview process are always something that I've been looking for. And that's the same even in IT. If people were coming to me and I was interviewing them for a technician job and they were asking questions about the latest operating system or how better to classify tech calls or, trying to get information out of me to better themselves, those people almost always work out after being hired in my experience. So that's my 2 cents.
Oh yeah, definitely anybody who's on point for any experience growing, especially if they've experienced growing like acreage, then they definitely move to the top because they're going to, especially insect observation, they seem to really have a one-up on. I also like to do, I'll take somebody, especially if I really think they got a good chance of being hired, have them suit up and whatever we need to do to get into a room and be like, cool, tell me what's wrong with the room right now. And let them go run around and tell me what the hell's wrong. And I know what's wrong. I scout the thing every morning, right? So that's cool. But maybe if they're really good, they find something I didn't know was there. Then they're a really good chance to get hired. But in general, if they can at least tell me all or most of what I know is wrong with the room is, or hey, there's nothing wrong with the room, let them run around a room for 30 minutes until they tell you nothing's wrong. That sometimes that's kind of fun too. But either way, let them, tell you that, call them on their experience. There's a lot of people out there that have trimmed or something like that might have watched a few podcasts and they can talk a good game, but throw them in a room for a minute and tell them and see what they do, and see what their reaction is when they walk into a room. Another big one is, do they complain about being itchy? Do they know that they're going to get itchy, right? Like it's a big one, right? Like you have people that are like, man, I don't remember weed being itchy. It's like, okay, you haven't grown weed before. Just like, get out. Like, that kind of stuff. So just stuff to think about. There's little stuff like that too, where, just you could tell if somebody's grown or not just by taking them into a grow and then asking them how they're going to go about doing, X, Y, or Z. Can give you a real good idea, and it can take you 5 or 10 minutes to find out if someone actually knows what they're doing or not pretty quickly. I went to a grow. Oh man. I went to a grow in Oklahoma and their master grower didn't know he was supposed to balance the pH of the nutrient solution, which I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've seen people over aerate their systems and hold their pH at 8.2 and all kinds of things. So you never know what kind of wacky ideas people's master growers, quote unquote, will have. Alrighty, so before we move on, do you guys have any questions here on the panel that you guys would like to ask other producers, or anything you guys are stuck on, anything you guys are wish you had an answer to, or anything like that, before I go back to user questions? Or not user questions, but viewer questions? Anything? Bueller? Nobody? All right. Anyone have any favorites? Go ahead.
How'd I order myself some black tilapia, Tanner?
Sorry, what's that?
But how'd I order myself some of your tilapia?
Well, you
Or
will
when's
be
your cannabis coming out too?
in about 7.5 months. I will be able to smoke some tilapia up for you, and then we'll trade some smoked tilapia for some smoked salmon. I don't know if that's an equal trade, but it's a trade. Yeah, so we're about 7.5 months from them getting to 1.5 pounds. And the weed, that's a good question, Lane. I mean, we're just about to put the royal in for its first cure, and I got to get my COA on it. So fingers crossed on it. So that's like the soonest we can have any weed on the market is looking like November 15th, kind of best case, and that would be for that run of Royal, and the Girl Scout would be kind of early November. But we're probably going to start here on the East Coast. We couldn't be further away, right? Like we're starting in New Brunswick, you guys are in BC, so I'll be kind of working my way there, unless we land on Shelter Market with you, which is a possibility, right?
Well, I look forward to trying it soon here, and to some smoked tilapia.
And God bless Canada for letting you travel with weed and concentrate on their airlines.
I know. All us Americans are super jealous right now of this entire conversation. Just in case you were wondering.
Oh yeah. Oh man, like getting on planes, like planes stink nowadays. Like you can carry, you know, some guys could carry like, you know, like a pound, right?
Yeah, down here in Oregon, so Oregon, you can fly out just about anywhere you want to, and they say, hey, wherever you're going, it's their problem. So for the most part, Oregon, you can fly out with stuff, and you can fly from Oregon to Oregon, you know, no problem. So that's been great. But man, to be able to send products to another state just seems like, you know, should be so obvious that it should be able to happen, and it doesn't. So that's always frustrating. But I do have a question for you guys, since Steve brought it up. I know a number of you guys are doing pheno hunts right now. So what are your favorite phenos that you haven't been able to try yet? What are you excited to try when it's done?
Well, I got this Cherry West from Freeborn, and I ran it indoor and outdoor, and it's actually you know, Mean Gene talks about one of the phenos being a mutant strain, and it is the weirdest looking plant. Like its leaves are on like any plant I've ever seen, and I wonder if I can find it here. But it just stinks. Like, oh, here it is right here. 1 second here. And I actually did smoke some non-cured, like, okay, see that leaf profile? That it's just the weirdest looking plant, right? This was early on, like this was about like 4 weeks before we took her down. But anyways, it just stinks. It's got like a real fruity smell on it. You know, I'm really looking forward to smoking a fully cured version of it. And it's kind of looking like it might be meant to be an outdoor strain, and it finished about 10 or 12 days ago, and I probably could have took it down about 5 or 6 days before that on the outdoor. And it was kind of short and stout, and it looked really great. So it looks like it actually might be an outdoor strain. It doesn't seem to be doing as well inside, so we're going to do a couple runs of that as well. But that's I basically fell in love with it on the outdoor. I rubbed one part of the butt, like I kept rubbing the top cola, and then it ended up molding on me because I kept touching it. So I had to cut that part off. So, you know, don't be touching your outdoor bud even if you love the plant.
So for me, due to so we're only allowed so much cultivation canopy space given the micro license we have. So with our expansion, we're actually fully utilizing that just for flower production. So we ended up partnering with Mother Labs out in Saskatoon, and right now we are in week 2 of a couple hundred pheno hunts. So I would say in 6 weeks when I go down there, I'm going to get all kinds of exciting plants, gorgeous ladies to look at, and be able to pick some new flavors for us. So it's 6 weeks out at today's date, but I'm very excited to check out our new phenos that we have going.
They have some really nice stuff going at Mother Labs. I'm based just outside of Saskatoon.
Yeah, they got an awesome site there. I toured up there a couple months ago. Great group of guys, and very excited to go back and see what we have coming down the pipe.
Sweet.
Who wants to go next?
I'll jump in. So we've got a a strain of this Gelato G that I'm really excited about. It actually fared really well. We had a bit of a pest problem come through, and it was the one plant who just stayed pristine and clear, even when plants right next to her just got swamped. And so we've got some that just got chopped last week. It's on the racks now that we're waiting to see. I mean, the flower is really nice. It's got some pretty color to it. So we're really interested to see how that one really turns out after dry and cure, and we get some COAs on it, because we've got a bunch of her prodigies in a room right now that's coming along, flip to flower, and is following up behind it. So we're really excited about that one. And that one should be available in our dispensaries in Oklahoma City here in the next couple months, probably about 3 months out from now. So that one's gonna be good to see how that turns out.
Go ahead, Dylan.
I'm running a few different phenos by Ethos right now, but the one that's standing out the most is probably Purple Sunset and Insane in the Membrane. I haven't flowered Insane in the Membrane yet, but it looks like it's going to stretch 3 times as big as it is now. So I don't have enough ceiling space, but that's okay. And one of my favorites to always have going is CBD Afghani by House of the Great Gardener. Every time I grow it, it ranges between 8% THC and 12% CBD, and the terpene profile on it is perfect, and it's super, super, super resilient to bugs and pests. So like Bain was saying, you have an infested plant right beside the mother, and the CBD Afghani just wasn't affected whatsoever. So that's one I'll definitely be keeping around as well. But I'm excited to try out these new Ethos genetics. I've never really ran any of them before. And yeah, probably after I'm done pheno hunting, I'm just going to go switch back to doing 1 or 2 strains, because doing more than one in this room is a task by itself.
I have a couple different varieties of my blue hash that some of the people have gotten their hands on. I usually throw those out when there's a fundraiser or something over on Future Cannabis Project and stuff like that. And that's the lineage I've been growing for a long time, since in Colorado. And then Mr. Green Jean's Garden has been back crossing those for me and working that line a little bit. And then we've been kind of jumping that in and out of aquaponics for quite a few generations now, and it really seems to just scream. But of the ones lately, the stuff I guess that I'm most excited to germinate next, which I'm about to soon, is a whole bunch of landrace Zimbabwe that I allegedly brought back from Zimbabwe, from the up in Nyanga Mountains, which is going to be a lot of fun pheno hunting those super high in pinene. So that'll be a lot of fun. So have you guys found any interesting test results so far in your searches?
No, unfortunately, we just sent off our, we're preparing to send off our samples for our COAs next week, so we don't have any results on that one I was speaking of just back yet. So eagerly awaiting that.
Yeah, we're we got pretty high hopes pinned on this next COA for our original. It's the original Girl Scout cut. It's kind of classic, you know. It's not really in the current hype train necessarily, but on the first run of it, you know, it did 2% terps and 22% THC, and that wasn't a run we did, actually. It was a run I had contracted out while I was waiting to get my license, and just everything you could imagine went wrong in that room. So you know, it kind of did those numbers despite that grow situation. So we're just about to get our next COA on that. So it's supposed to do up to 28 and 28% and 3.5% terps. I got to like my nose isn't a COA, but like it stunk up. It stunk up the whole building. You know, it was you walk as soon as you pulled up to the building, it was Girl Scout that you were smelling outside. You walked in the office, it was Girl Scout. It was right beside the Royal, right? You know, it was in the same room. So we had two tables of the Girl Scout, two tables of Mandelbrot's Royal, and you know, it was just unbelievably powerful of a scent, right? So it kind of took over everything. So fingers crossed. You know, I'm more excited about the terp numbers than the THC numbers personally, but the market's more excited about THC numbers, unfortunately, than terp numbers right now. So
Awesome. Very cool. Anybody else?
Yeah, as Tanner mentioned, for us so far, so on our cake strain, which is a Mandarin Sunset crossed with a Do-si-do, our highest COA we've got back was a 33% total cannabinoids and 1.87% terpenes. Now we're hunting through hundreds more here, so I'm expecting that we're going to be able to get those terpenes up here from some new phenos, and as well the market up here is focused very around the high THC, but I think people are starting to also really care about the terps, so having that combination of the two is going to be big for making sure you're top of the market choice.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, terpenes is one of the things that we found a huge boost in. We've had some get quite high in the aquaponics, especially when you start getting into hybridizing it with some of the different fermented inputs. It seems certain plants have different compounds that really trigger terpene production in certain plants as well. Maybe not something that you could do in a certified organic system without getting yourself into trouble, but when in an R&D system or something like that, where you can experiment a little more, you definitely, or in a home grow for sure, can play around with some of that stuff that we don't have access to always on the commercial scale too. So, but definitely some really interesting things that we've seen. CBD as well, a huge increase in CBD against soil controls that we've had. I can't tell you how many times we've done that one now. 5-6 times that we've done that with different groups. Yeah, quite a bit. The other one was beta carpholine. Beta carpholine in particular, we seem to have a huge boost in. Was the other one that I've seen just across the board in the aquaponics versus soil have a pretty big boost. Bain, you do a little bit of side-by-side as well up there. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, not particularly on that. In particular, we don't have any that we were able to run exactly side-by-side comparisons and get our variables as cold as we'd like just yet.
Sure. I was just curious, just because I know you have the different setups up there. I did a lot of work to help at Bain's the company he works with. I was working with them a little bit before.
It's kind of like a house sometimes. It feels like it.
Yeah, right. So let me see what other questions we have in chat here. Let's see. Is anybody growing any CBG cultivars?
Not yet, but I definitely want to.
Maybe if I could get a I might grow something else, but no CBG here.
Nope, nothing in particular here.
Let's see here. There's some other questions. Thank you very much. Lots of people saying thank you for all the awesome content. Good. Go. Okay, hold on. Can't believe it's taking me so long. So, no. All right. Would you guys have any other things you guys like to say about aquaponics and your experiences about doing it versus other methods in general?
I had a recent pretty good anecdote occur. You know, I came out of the leafy green world originally, and I ran a farm for 3.5 years in Western Canada and Edmonton, Alberta, and we did spinach, kale, arugula, Swiss chard, 20 different types of basil. We did the old servicing of restaurants, home delivery, box systems. But the fact of the matter is that aquaponics really made me fall in love with leafy greens. On a personal level, I didn't realize spinach tastes so good. I didn't realize arugula was supposed to taste like horseradish. And recently, I had heard that a chef of a high-end conference center called the Shaw Conference Center downtown Edmonton. He used to buy all of our aquaponically grown leafy greens, and after I exited that company and came to focus on Stewart Farms, they the guys that were running it, they eventually shut it down. But since he stopped getting aquaponically grown leafy greens, and he tried hydroponic guys, like local indoor hydroponic guys, and he refuses to bring any indoor grown in if it's not aquaponically grown. And he's a phenomenal chef. And I just heard that within the last week. So if we were to be back out there again and Stewart Farms was to get going back on the food side, he would bring our products back into his restaurant here again. I know it's not cannabis driven, but it's just a testimony. For me personally, anyways. I mean, I've tried lots of vegetables, fruiting crops and leafy greens grown in hydroponic systems, and to me, the food just tastes better in an aquaponic system, and apparently it does with that particular chef as well. So I just thought that was a pretty good anecdote.
I mean, for me, it's just my favorite thing to smoke, I guess. I mean, I've grown it all kinds of different ways. You guys watched my talk earlier. I kind of went over all the different ways in which I have grown it, and then everything I grow, I consume. So by doing it multiple different ways myself, I feel like I can at least eliminate the grower's bias in terms of that, because obviously everything that we grow tastes good to us. I think the same's mostly true for food as well. So it's easy to say that our own cannabis is the best cannabis, but if we only do it one way, then I feel like it doesn't rule out our bias. So after growing in living soil and growing in decoupled systems and growing in sub-irrigated planters and growing in just straight pots and growing in hydro, in all the different ways, and then consuming them, I can still say confidently that every side by side, every strain that I've grown, I've all preferred in a full loop aquaponic system. So that's why I do it. I'm a consumer of one, so I don't have any other customers that I have to be concerned about. So that's nice.
It's something that you can be really proud of. For us, like I can go grab sashimi grade salmon right out of our finishing tanks and have for lunch. Get the amazing cannabis that we've been producing at our facility. And as Tanner mentioned as well, it opens up the opportunities to be able to get in food production. And I've tried some of the kale and lettuce from Deepwater Farms up in Calgary, and definitely I could tell the difference from what I would get at the store otherwise. And having that quality product grow in an aquaponic system, you get amazing protein and your greens, whether it be leafy greens or cannabis greens.
Yeah, I think the thing that really sets aquaponics apart for me, I come from a vegetable and leafy green background as well. And I can definitely agree with what you're saying, Marty. The grower's bias is present. What you grow, I do think tastes better most of the time. But that aside, I believe that aquaponics is something that's really unique and you can be proud of in terms of its regenerative properties, and you can make it really low impact. And from a commercial standpoint too, once you get everything dialed in and your processes figured out, I believe it's truly a more economical way to produce what, again, in my opinion, is a higher quality product, better tasting product at the end of the day, and better for customers, whether they be medicinal, as is the case here in Oklahoma, or recreational in other markets. So that's what really sets aquaponics apart for me, and that's the reason I'm going down that path.
Absolutely. I've found no matter the crop, it really increases the flavor. Hands down, that just it doesn't matter if it's lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, cannabis, night and day, doesn't matter unless you're growing in like the richest living soil. I think is the only thing that really compares, and that takes time and experience that a lot of people just don't have, and patience that a lot of people don't have, to be frank with you. So yeah, so I think that's the kind of the biggest thing all around, that you just can't really compare. So on that note, why doesn't everybody go around and tell everybody how to find them and more information about them and their products, and then we'll conclude. So why don't we start off with Tanner there?
Yeah, well, thanks, Steve, for having me. It's always great, and always great talking to all you guys as well. It's nice to be, it's amazing to be part of this community. It really is. I tell people aquaponics is kind of like a religion, and once you're in, you're in. But yeah, you can find us on, of course, our website, stewartfarms.life. So we don't do .com, we do .life. So stewartfarms.life. You find us on Instagram, same thing, stewartfarms.life, and also on YouTube, stewartfarms.life. We put a lot of we do a lot of vlogging. We try to share as much of our journey as we can in between how crazy things are. So I do a lot of interviews with medical patients as well in the cannabis field. So you can check me out at tannerstewart.life on Instagram and Facebook. And also you can find us on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, anybody who follows us, we really appreciate it.
So again, I'm Bain Howard of Vertica Farms. You can find us at Vertica Farms OK on Instagram. We're just getting that one up and running, so there's not a whole lot of content there. But you can find out more about our dispensaries located in Oklahoma City and Edmond at vertica.ok on Instagram, and Vertica Dispensary there as well. So you can find our product from the farm there. So come by, check it out, and let us know what you think.
I'm Dylan.
Yeah,
with
thanks again,
Awesome
Steve,
Farms.
and a great job to put him. Oh. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm Dylan with Awesome Farms. You can find me on Instagram, Awesome Farms, and also meawesomefarms.com. Just redirects to my YouTube channel, which I should probably update more. But yeah. Thanks again for having me, Steve. Always learn a lot on these panels. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, great event. So I'm Liane Keyes, and with Habitat Life. So similar to Tanner, our website is habitat.life. And then our social media accounts, Instagram and Twitter, are the same thing, habitat.life. You can find the company and what we're up to there. So if you want to follow me personally, I got the Chief Cultivator Instagram as well. And then our products. So you can find our products at Shelter Market. So if you Google Shelter Market, you'll be able to find Habitat product with them. And in the dispensaries in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba as well. You'll have to probably look around to see which ones are carrying us. I know we've been selling out quickly in a lot of areas, but I hope you can get your hands on some of our deep water culture aquaponics chronic that we've been doing over at Habitat.
Awesome. What about you, Marty?
Oh yeah, so you can find me at AP Meds on YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, most of the socials, in the Aquaponic Cannabis Growers group that we mentioned numerous times, of course, on the Growing Fishes podcast. So yeah, big shout out to all of our sponsors and all of the guests here on this panel, and most of all, Steve, putting all this together. Nice little golf clap for you there, buddy. It's just been great. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to be here for quite all of it, and I'm definitely going to be watching it back over on some of the ones we missed, but just appreciate the turnout, and just shows what a strong community we have with aquaponics. Kind of like what Tanner was saying about the religion aspect of it. Once you're in and kind of taken care of in a lot of aspects. So I really appreciate that about all you guys showing up and sharing your information. And big thanks to all of you. And Steve.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thanks a bunch, everybody, and Steve especially. All the love and information has been great.
So 1 second, I gotta break up my dog. So thanks everybody for taking the time to come out to the conference. I really appreciate it. I'm Steve from Potent Ponics. You can find out more information about me at potentponics.com. You can find my class at apmjclass.com. If you want to take a long format class, Marty and I have been putting a ton of effort into kind of reformatting that class into a much longer course than it originally was. So it's going to be a lot of fun on that. And then please check it out if you really enjoy this type of content. We finally have a merch store up that helps pay for the server and the website and all the stuff. So that's can be found here in the description. We have all kinds of cool aquaponic cannabis t-shirts and hoodies. It just helps keep the lights on as far as the project and being self-sustaining. So if you enjoyed it, check that out. And we have links to all the different speakers all weekend. Special thanks to my Angela Tenenbrock, Roger Loper, Matthew Gates, Brian Flipowicz, Breeder Steve, Chris Trump, Dr. Wilson Leonard, Josh and Kelly from Dragonfly Earth Medicine, Wade Laughter, Joe Pate, Josh Rutherford, Marty Waddell, Wendy Kornberg, Scotty Reel, Dinesh, Brendan Strath, Liane Keyes, Murray Hollum, and everybody here on this panel. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks everybody for coming out and being part of this wonderful conference. Also shout out to Mammoth P Microbes, Spectrum King LED, realgrowers.com, Potent Ponics, Optic Foliar, Foop Organic Biosciences, and True Aquaponics Store for donating items and donating things for us to give out to the podcast and to the conference. So really appreciate it. And we hope to see you guys again soon. Again, thanks everybody. We will keep this up. I will be breaking them down into individual videos, but I will leave them up in their current form until that's completed. So I just think it'll make it easier for people to find them and find the information they're interested in. So thanks everybody for watching, and I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys Thursday with the podcast's normal time right here on the Potent Ponics YouTube channel. You can always find great aquaponic cannabis information on the Growing with Fishes podcast, which is available on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys again soon. Peace.